What is going on, Cleveland? This is Happy Hour in the Land. This is a place where Cleveland fans can come to commiserate. The therapy session. This is a therapy session. Happy Hour in the Land. We have our liquid libations. So we're ready to kind of like just have that therapy with our liquid libations. And you know what I got today? I know I usually have a beer. Today it's bourbon and root beer today. But the bourbon is a very special bourbon. It is Field of Dreams. You can see, there we go. Field of Dreams bourbon. Brought to you, made with the corn from the Field of Dreams in Iowa.
No way.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's smoothest tasting bourbon I've had in a while. And on the cap, they put a player on the cap. I doubt you'll be able to see it too much. Johnny Bench. Johnny Bench is on my cap. And just a very cool bourbon. I was very happy to, like I said, drink from the corn of Iowa and at the Field of Dreams is really cool. They also have a different kind of bottle where they're numbered, and they have like one bottle for every player that ever debuted in the majors in order of how they debuted. So like they have a Sandy Alomar bottle, and that I don't know the number on it, but they have one Sandy Alomar bottle because he was like the 20,354th player that debuted in the major leagues. Just really cool concept, really cool brand. So I was able to get that, and I like it. I like it a lot. What do you got drinking?
Excellent. Going, wow, what an amazing concept there that you have now. And I'm happy to talk about my drink, but I got to ask you, the Field of Dreams drink, the one from the corn of the actual field.
Yeah. Is
it fair to say, Gomer, that if they distill it, you will drink it?
That's right. I absolutely will. It's very smooth.
That's a true baseball fan for you, my friend. Well, I'm drinking Angel's Envy's Old Fashioned, once again, a classic and a favorite of mine. And I appreciate meeting with you and having these happy hour sessions for you. So here's cheers to you, Gomer, and to everybody else back out there who cares to listen.
Cheers.
So, Gomer, what do we got today, man? What's burning your bridges, man?
Well, like I said, this is a place where we come for our therapy. There's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to talk about. You know, we're in the midst of the coaching search, right, for the Cleveland Browns. We have a lot to discuss on this topic here. Also, though, going a little bit later, we'll be talking about college football, transfer portal, coaches. We'll talk about that a little bit, and of course, if we have time, we're gonna hone in on the Guardians and find out what's happening in the Guardians, what they're doing this offseason, what they need to do, what they haven't done. We'll be talking about that in just a little bit. But, you know, first off, with the Browns coaches, we've been talking about the coaches so far, all the coaches that are available, who might come to Cleveland and whatnot. First off, though, good idea, bad idea at this point. Was it a good idea, bad idea to get rid of Kevin Stefanski?
Well, I think that's a great question, right? And being a diehard Browns fan, I've seen us go through a lot of coaches, and you got to wonder, right? It seemed that perhaps after 2 Coach of the Years, right, it's going to make you wonder whether or not this is a good idea. And before I give my opinion, really, I'd like to hear your idea, Gomes, because I got a couple thoughts on this, but I'd love to hear yours first.
Well, at the very beginning, when it did happen last week, I kind of was on the bad idea train, just because, like you said, 2-time Coach of the Year, they finished strong, the players hadn't given up on them, and so I really thought that our team still had a chance. As long as we could fix the problems on our offense, then we might have a shot. Because ultimately, and I know none of us here like Pittsburgh, of course, but the thing about Pittsburgh is they've had their coach for 19 years, and it's something that I've been jealous of for some time, right? I mean, I forgot. I was going to go back and count how many head coaches we've had in the last 19 years since Tomlin was hired. But I mean, just Tomlin kept on most of Bill Cowher's staff, and they basically just continued operation as is, right? I mean, there was a coaching change, but the philosophy never changed. It just kind of flowed. And then, like, with 19 years as a head coach, you don't have to change. You're not changing offensive playbooks. You're not changing philosophies. You're not changing culture. And those are the things that the new head coach of the Browns is going to have to come in and worry about. But I really like the fact that they've never had to. And of course, just a few hours ago, Tomlin announced that he's stepping down, and so he's no longer the coach, and they'll be actually in the same boat as us now, looking for a new head coach. But that's one thing. That's what I've been always striving for. But now, sorry, long answer. But as we've been going on, and more news has been coming out. I've been hearing about Stefanski, about how he was not on board with the Deshaun Watson trade, that he was against. And with all the things going on, and ever since then, I've heard rumors that he just wanted out. And if that's the case, like they both need a fresh start, cool. Cool. Like I'm okay with that. So maybe it's a good idea, and maybe we can get our coach for the next 19 years coming up. You never know.
Wow, wouldn't that be nice, right? 19 years of the same coach. And boy, isn't that impressive. It's tough to beat Harbaugh's 18 years in one place, but Tomlin did it today with style and grace. But as far as going back to the Kevin Stefanski, good idea, bad idea, I I agree with you. I've been hearing rumors, and to be honest with you, I think it's been leaking out for a little while that Kevin Stefanski wanted to run a certain type of offense that Deshaun Watson, after getting all that guaranteed money, was simply saying, "I'm not going to do it." So they changed offensive coordinators. Remember, we went from Pelt to a couple other guys. The guy we beat in Miami all those years ago from Ohio State,
Dorsey.
forget his name. Dorsey, thank you, right? Who was supposed to be a offensive juggernaut and stuff like that. But what I'm interested in hearing you say is that you said that Stefanski, had not lost the locker room. That's something that I had not heard. I heard that maybe he had lost the locker room. There was an image of Myles Garrett during Stefanski's last speech, right? That made me think that maybe, those who had been around for a little while, Miles obviously being one of them, but not the only one, right? That maybe some of these guys are just getting a little tired of it. But is tough with two-time coach of the year, and I could certainly understand why he wanted to go. It's hard to win more than 5 games in this league when you're starting 4 quarterbacks in a year. And that's something that I hope people realize when they look at Kevin Stefanski's record. How many years of those coaching, how many victories of those were in a season where he had more than 3 quarterbacks? And go ahead and compare that to Kansas City with Mahomes or Josh Allen and in Buffalo. And to be clear, I think they're fantastic players. All I'm saying is that they make it throughout an entire season, and it's not their first one, versus all those freshman quarterbacks or rookie quarterbacks that we had, and great quarterbacks they were. But it's that consistency, and that's what you're talking about with Pittsburgh. That's what you're talking about with 19 years with Tomlin. Before that was Bill Cowher, right? Many years with him, and before him, what was it? Chuck Noll.
Chuck Noll.
All of them, by the way, seemingly to be around the age of 34 or 35. I think Chuck Noll was 38, but Cowher and Tomlin were about 34 years old. So I just bring that up because for those of you that are wondering just what type of coach the Steelers might be looking for, it seems like a young guy who will, as Gomer said, just keep the tradition. Ground and pound. Steelers football. Why change it? Which brings me back to the Cleveland Browns. Gomer, why do we keep changing it? Why can't we stick with the days of Kevin Mack, Ernest Biner, a tough 2 running back punch, and the dogs in the backfield with Minifield and, oh my gosh, Hanford Dixon? Why can't we keep the same?
Top dog. Well, no,
Yeah.
yeah, I would love it. I would love it. Actually, well, unfortunately, Marty's passed away, but I think his son's around here somewhere, right? We could always include him in on this. But I mean, I think that's
Gosh, isn't Marty Scharten? I'm sorry, Gomes. Isn't Marty Schartenheimer over in Dallas? Isn't he the head coach in Dallas?
not Marty, his son. I don't know. I forgot his first name.
Right.
Is it Marty?
Yes, Marty is no longer coaching, but I think his kid is over there in Dallas. And I only mentioned that because Dallas got rid of Micah Parsons. The defense was kind of a train wreck, and then they started to kind of pull it all around. And CD Lamb and the other wide receiver that they got from that yellow and brown team that you like to talk about, they got exciting there towards the end, right? But yeah, I think that was Schottenheimer's kid.
Yeah, I think you're right. But the one thing that but just I think the Browns have been searching for that for some years. When from the very beginning, from I should say the beginning of 1999. Ever since then, we hired in all these coaches ever since then, and I think that they've been looking for it. And I was hoping with Stefanski, we've been in 6 years, and hopefully, and that's why I've been rooting for Schwartz as the head coach. To not blow up the defense, just kind of keep him there, keep Tommy Reese's offensive coordinator, and things kind of stay the same. They're different, but they're the same. So that's kind of what I've been rooting for this entire time. That's a
Well, I got
possibility,
to tell you,
you
that's
know.
absolutely. That's not a bad idea because you know what I'm afraid of, Gomer, after losing the two-time Coach of the Year candidate who clearly could deal with Jimmy Haslam and Andrew Berry's challenges that they give him, right? Is are we going to pick out some coordinator that's never done this before?
Yeah, possibly.
Jim Schwartz has been a head coach, right, for Detroit. He had his licks and he took some time off, right, to recharge and then came back, helps us with a great defense. And I'm with you, man. I would hate to lose Jim Schwartz as the defensive coordinator, which makes, but that begs the question, go right. Do the Browns do a head coach search and say you have to keep, excuse me, do you have to keep Jim Schwartz? Gome, is Jim Schwartz that valuable that you want to keep him but not make him a head coach? I mean, maybe he doesn't want to be a head coach, but I certainly don't want to lose him, but I don't want to handcuff the new coach. What do you think?
No, that's kind of the way I was going. If we're not going to hire him as head coach, like we need to hire an offensive coordinator, coach, or someone that's offensive minded, so we can keep him on. And they've kind of hinted towards that. But there's been reports this last week that Schwartz went and interviewed in Baltimore. So there's other, like, his defense has been really good. So there's other teams that might go out there and say, "Hey, you've been good. Why don't you come coach with us?" It's a possibility. So I'm afraid that we might even lose him that way, even if we don't hire him as a head coach. I'm afraid we'll lose him. And then, and who do we get? Do we get a defensive coordinator? Do we get an offensive coordinator? Somebody that's offensive minded or someone's defensive minded?
Well, can we just get somebody that's got some kind of head coaching experience, right? I think if you look around the league, you're going to see some head coaches had some experiences. They step back, got a little bit more experience, and move forward. Look at the Philadelphia Eagles and their head coaches as they cycled through after Andy Reid. I think that if you look at the Bears, right, how they got the Detroit's coordinator from there, they're doing great. But they have a quarterback, and Tennessee, one of the 9 open coaching positions, right, also has a quarterback. Vegas, one of the 9 open coaching positions, right, has the number 1 draft pick. And I think we all know what traditionally that means they're going to pick. They're going to pick that quarterback Heisman Trophy winner that's still in the college playoffs from Indiana. So it's interesting to see all the variables out there, and I hear you that it would be an absolute tragedy to lose Jim Schwartz to the of all places Baltimore Ravens or the Pittsburgh
Mm-hmm.
Steelers. And to me, going that deserves a happy hour. Liquid libations, we're here for you, my friends. Losing Jim Schwartz would be one worth drinking for. And Jim, we hope you stay around. But cheers to you and cheers to you at home. Let's keep a strong defense. Gome, I went on a rant, please.
So we have some possible candidates here. I know the one name on this. There's one name I know, at least one name missing from this list is Brian Flores. But here's some of the possible candidates for the Browns. We have, obviously, we've been talking about Jim Schwartz, Tommy Reese. I don't know. I don't think he's ready. Maybe he'll make a great head coach. I don't know. I don't know. I don't see him making it, but you never know.
Well,
We
one
have
day, right, Gome? Right? I think you and I are in the same boat on Tommy Reese, right? He's a great guy, mastermind, right? He just needs a little bit more years in the NFL. So I understand why he would be on that list, but he certainly wouldn't be on my list over Flores. But again, Flores
Yeah,
is a
absolutely.
defensive coordinator, and I'd hate to
Right.
see conflict between Jim Schwartz and Flores. So there might be
Well,
a
that's
go ahead, please.
no,
Please.
you're absolutely right because I think that if we get Flores, I don't think Schwartz will stay because I think you said there will be too much conflict there. But I think some of these names on this list, like Aiden, Jesse Minter, they're defensive coordinators, and I'm not sure about Monken. I can't remember.
Todd
Yeah,
Monken, wasn't he wasn't he a coach for a team? I'm sorry to cut you off, bud. But I think he was a head coach for somebody for a little while. And again, he might be one of those that I'm talking about, like Flores, who you take a year or two back, man. And, 9 openings this year going. Nine. That's more than a quarter of the NFL league. Can we agree real quick for any of you that are Generation X or older back there that the NFL was not an immediate production league? You know, uh, they used to give people time. Remember, Peyton Manning is a classic example. How many interceptions did he have on his rookie year? Which was a lot. And John Madden, right? The great John Madden, talking about offensive line because we had so many problems with offensive line. Remember, he said that it took an offensive line 2 years to gel. If you look back through this year, I think you're going to see multiple teams with up to like 20, 22 different formations on the offensive line. This is a much different league. It's been adapting, and 9 head coaching positions, that's a lot. And I think that's to bring it back home. That's why Tommy Reese is on the list. He's going to be on some people's list. Maybe a little bit too early. Again, I think you and I agree that you and I would rather have Jim Schwartz than Tommy Reese. No disrespect, Tommy, but just not yet. Just not yet. You'll get your time.
Yeah. Well, I'm not a big fan of Minter. He came from he coached with the other Harbaugh up at that school up north, so I'm not a big fan of him. But speaking of
Get
Harbaugh,
him
we have
out of
the other
here.
Harbaugh. We have the other Harbaugh. John Harbaugh's on this list.
What?
Now, I know a lot of Browns fans are hoping that he would come to Cleveland. He has interest, as seen here. Bottom line is, I don't think that he'll come here. I've heard and that he wants to have control over the roster, which, I mean, we have Andrew Berry. I don't see Berry giving that up. There's also reports of that may not be true, but you would think a guy that's been around that long that he would want some sort of control or say over who he's coaching. McDaniel has had an interview. He's not marked here as an interview, and I think Minter has had an interview as well. But McDaniel's the guy I would want if we're not getting Schwartz. I'd like to get McDaniel and maybe keep Schwartz. That would be sweet. I think a good duo to get there.
Really? I'm intrigued by this. Like, I like Mike McDaniel's brain. There's no question about it. I like that. But you know what I keep hearing from some people? In fact, I heard it from Brian Hoyer, previous Cleveland Browns quarterback, who talked about, being a leader of men and the alpha in the room. And again, much respect to Mike McDaniel. And I hope he is involved in the Cleveland Browns in the future. But Gomer, I'm wondering about your opinion on what Brian Hoyer said about having an alpha in the room, right? Like the head coach of New England, right? Who was with us for the last couple of years. He was an alpha. He hits them hard, but he also loves them hard, according to Brian Hoyer. I think Kevin Stefanski really is that kind of mastermind, calm, level-headed guy. But we need that dog right out there that's gonna really push these guys. And I think, well, do you think Jim Schwartz is that alpha? And do you think that what I'm saying has any legs? And again, would love to have Mike McDonald. No disrespect to him whatsoever. I'm wondering about what they were saying about that alpha dog. What do you dying to know what you think?
Well, I don't know. It's tough because I don't think as a head coach you necessarily need to be the alpha dog, right? Because if you surround yourself with some good coaches that can kind of be tough, if that's what you're calling alpha, is like kind of be tough on the guys, then like yeah, I think that would work. Um, there's been a lot of head coaches that have come around, especially with the Browns, that just haven't been tough. I should say practice tough, and I go back to Hugh Jackson and Hard Knocks, where they weren't practicing, and he got into an argument with our defensive coordinator at the time about making these guys tough. And I do want to go that way, but again, like if you want to be somebody, it's hard on them. If you surround yourself with some good coaches, I think it's okay. And especially Mike McDaniel, like I have heard that like he was a little too lax. Again, something that Terry Francona, his rap was in Boston before he left Boston, before he came to Cleveland. And he turned out okay because maybe he learned his lesson, wasn't as friendly with the
How about
players.
Lane Kiffin? How about Lane Kiffin go, right? When he was coached the Raiders, right? Then he went back to Alabama, right? He specifically said that he was too lax on him. Nick Saban taught him that just because you have a good week doesn't mean you get a day off. Sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt, but I
Yeah.
just wanted to help support your point there.
Yeah. Well, I'm not a big fan of Lane. We'll talk about him in a little bit.
No, especially
Just for
after
different
what he
reasons.
did to Ole Miss, man. Whoa, it would have been cool if Ole Miss had pulled it off. Oh, that would have been cool. But you do get what I mean, right? About that kind of comparison. So you talk about good coaches going. John Harbaugh supposedly was let go because he stood up for his defensive coordinator and offense. I'm sorry, his coordinators in general. Sounds
Well,
like
and
a
that's
stand-up
I
kind of
think
guy for me.
yeah, but there's also rumors that he kind of lost the locker room there at the end. But I mean, that may be one reason he was there. What do we say, 18 years in
Eight.
Baltimore, and maybe that's one thing that happens over 18 years is that kind of like we said before, the Tony La Russa, you kind of get too old and players stop listening to you. That's a possibility too with him. But I think that he's been around long enough that he can still command respect in the locker room. If he came to a new one, especially a young one like this, I think that he'd be okay for a little bit at least.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because there are rumors that maybe Harbaugh and their star quarterback, right, Lamar Jackson, had some conflict, and that just makes me think
Hmm.
about the days of Mike Shanahan, right, when he was past Denver, right, but he's over in Washington and he was coaching our G3, right, and how there was a lot of conflict there, and you hear about how Shanahan tried to do everything he could, but the ownership was in love with RG3, and you hear this again. Philadelphia was at Carson Wentz, many different examples of this. So I think you have a point there. And after 18 years, it's got to be tough to try and, tell them, hey, once more under the breach, gentlemen, under this. But again, I will, as much as I despise the Baltimore Ravens, I will say that the reason the Ravens have been knocked out of the playoffs the last few seasons has nothing to do with coaching. I think about their Pro Bowl, possibly Hall of Famer Todd Heap, right? Dropping tight end, dropping that touchdown pass right in the corner. I think about the field goal that was missed, and million and one things that players got to take responsibility as well. All that said, 18 years going, maybe it's time for some new blood. And if you look across the AFC North, that's what I see. I see 19 years with Steelers. Tomlin, not 1 year below 500. New blood. Ravens, 18 years Super Bowl. How many AFC championships, right? New blood. And of course, there's no surprise for us Cleveland fans that there is new blood for coaching. And here we are back into a coaching dilemma. And did I hear you right, Gomes, that your preferred pick right now, I give you you got plenty of chance to change your mind, my friend, is Mike McDaniels? Did I hear that right? Nothing wrong with Mike. I just want to actually, could you just clarify who you think is number one for you right now?
Well, well, well. You did mention the AFC North, so I wanted to touch on that real quick. Is the new blood, and the one guy that probably should have been fired, in my opinion, kept his job in the AFC North. Zach Taylor from the Bengals is the one guy that everyone thought that he was going to get fired, but then I think he thought it too because after his comments of the last game, how mad he was that we celebrated on the field after Miles' sack, and he said something about like how something about the losing season was like expected or something like that. The owners came out and said, "No, this is our guy. We're not firing him." So I feel like he's probably the one guy that should have got fired, but kept his job. As far as my
That's
number
crazy. I
one
hadn't heard that.
pick,
Thank you.
yeah, as far as my number one pick, Schwartz, hands down. If we can't get Schwartz, then I would probably like to do McDaniel or Flores. I would take Flores too. But the reason I put McDaniel over Flores is just because maybe we'll get to keep Schwartz if we hire McDaniel. If we hire Flores, we probably won't be able to keep Schwartz. That's the only reason I put
Do I
McDaniel over Flores.
do I have a possible dream scenario for you, real quick? Schwartz head coach, McDaniels offensive coordinator. Flores is going to get a head coaching job. So, but what do you think about that? McDaniels offensive coordinator, Schwartz, right, for the consistency.
No, yeah, I mean that would be fine too. I don't know if
Fine, that's a dream for you, right? Because you'll have
well, yeah,
McDaniels. You'll have that mind, right? For the offense, we need that. Shador's coachable. Can we
Yeah,
admit that?
I
He
don't
looks
know if I
coachable.
don't know if McDaniel will settle, if you will. He'll take a demotion. I don't know if he's willing to do that. I don't know. That's a possibility, but he may be looking for head coaching spots right now. So if we want him as an offense coordinator, it might be one of those late things where he realizes he's not getting a head coaching job after all the jobs start filling up, sort of thing.
Tommy Reese, is he going to go to head coach after only 1 year as offensive coordinator? Go.
I don't know. I don't know. Hopefully
Wait,
he
wasn't
stays.
he
That's why.
interviewing for Michigan? Wasn't he interviewing for that school up north?
Yes, he was. Or I don't know if he was interviewing, but his name was thrown into the rumor mill for that. I don't know if he interviewed or not, but I
If
know
he
his name was
interviewed,
at
is it
least in
okay for
the
us
rumor.
to not like him anymore?
Yes, absolutely.
That's okay. Good.
Anybody associated with that team up north.
That's what the heart was telling me, buddy. That's what the heart was telling me.
But yeah, all those are possibilities. I mean, there's a lot of rumors, I guess, to go around, possibly coming up. I mean, a lot of stuff that's still going to happen that anything can play out. A lot of hirings to go on. One name that I didn't see on the list. What I'm a little surprised was I think Cliff Kingsbury, offensive coordinator. Just he left, I believe Washington. I believe he was a former head coach at one time, if I remember, for Arizona. Offensive mind, I
Arizona,
believe,
yep.
at Texas Tech.
I think he did come from,
I
but
think
I
it was
know what
Tech.
you're
I
talking
think it was
about.
Tech.
Cliff Kingsbury. Yeah, he had some experience with that. You're right. Where is that guy's name? Well, with 9 head coaching positions, I think, and I know we're going to talk about this a lot, and I'm excited to do it. But can we talk about, is it going to come to how attractive is Cleveland's position? Because was it yesterday, RG3 came out and said that the Cleveland Browns were the least attractive. I just cannot believe that to be true. Not with the strong defense, Miles Garrett, Schwessinger looked to be fantastic. So a strong defense. Shador, say what you want. It looks like he's got some possibilities. You know what? Let's forget on Shador. I'll go tight end and 2 running backs. Right? That feels good. So how are the Browns the worst out of the 9? Convince me or change my mind, Go. The Browns are not the worst job posting out there for head coaches.
Well, if you recall, when before one of my reasons to not fire Stefanski at the beginning was I didn't want them because
Yes.
this job wouldn't be very appealing, if you will. That if there was Jesse Minter right now is thought to be the most sought after head coach of the cycle, and
Over Harbaugh?
really, possibly, but
Okay.
if say the Browns offered him a job, but then the Steelers also offered him the job, he's picking the Steelers. Any of the
No.
other
Who would pick
openings.
the Steelers?
So when it comes to the Browns and the reasons that we're not the top would be the uncertainty of the quarterback situation. You don't know who the quarterback's going to be, which I do have a prediction down the line.
Okay, but
in
before
a
you
little
go
bit.
there, I want to stick to your point. Who's the Steelers quarterback next year?
They don't have one yet. Well, it could be former Ohio State quarterback. They drafted him last year. Very accurate. Will
Hey,
Howard. You never know. You don't know. Probably all depends on who the new
can you
head coach
believe he
is and
didn't
who he
do it?
wants. But then
Well, I hear you. I
also
hear
with
you, right? But he was 6'4", studying under Aaron Rodgers for a year. I'm sorry to cut you off. And Mike Tomlin. So I gotta think he's got to be a good shot for him, right? And where do the Steelers pick? Right, they're going to be in the playoffs. So it's 26. Yeah, man. Let the guy
and
play.
as
Unless they want to get.
and as we talked about before, there's not a lot on the free agent market. I mean, they could get the Malik Willis from Green Bay, possibly. I mean, he's probably the hot quarterback free agent this offseason. But we talked about how we're not very valuable, or we're not the most appealing job because of the quarterback situation is very unclear right now. But it's also our salary cap situation. Like we don't have a lot of room. We can't sign a lot of free agents. So to fix our offenses, we're going to need to do it through the draft, and it's going to be really tough to do that. I mean, you got to count on Barry hitting again every time, like he did this last time. It's possible, but I'm sure it's going to be hard to do 2 years in a row.
He did
Well,
say
that brings
that
a lot
he
of
did come out
uncertainty to the team.
officially. No, absolutely. I'm sorry to talk over you, buddy. You're absolutely right. A lot of uncertainty with the team, and will Barry have as good of a draft? That's where I was wanted to chime in. Is that I don't know if you heard that Barry has come out specifically and said that the plan is to lean heavy on the offense. Now, I don't think that's really, really talking out of school or anything like that because the defense is doing so strong and the offense was so terrible. And that offensive line, my friend, offensive line. But what about wide receiver, right? If we're picking number 6 and 24, right? I got to go
Man, I was rooting
offensive
hard for the
lineman
Jaguars
first.
to lose just so we
But
could get
if
that 24th pick.
and that's weird because I like the Jaguars. It was the one year I was rooting for them not to win, and of course they did pretty well. But go, I think that offensive lineman from Miami is going to be gone by 6. So do you go
It's
Tate
possible.
with number 6 and try to get another offensive lineman at 24? Because here's what I'm worried about. 24, there's 18 picks in between there. There's a lot of people that need offensive linemen, and of course everybody can use a wide receiver, but ah, offensive lineman and
Yeah,
wide receiver at 6, and is number 24 the exact opposite?
yeah, I do. I think you're right. Wide receiver at one of them, either 6 or 24, and tackle at the other one, or lineman. Now, what I would really highlight is if they're available. I think tackle is the most important. But the thing is, I read about Francis, the guy from Miami. I know I was gonna say his name wrong. I've never heard it pronounced, but it's Mamigoa, from Miami, or Spencer Fano from Utah. I read up on a lot of those guys, and they're both right tackles, which I feel is weird. Like, if they're so good, wouldn't they be
Yes, sir.
the left tackles? And that scares me just because the last right tackle that we drafted in the first round, Jedrick Wills, he was a right tackle when we drafted him out of Alabama, and
We
turned
did,
out
yes,
to
and
be
out of
okay.
but he was, but they moved him over to the left tackle, and I think what they're looking at those right tackles that you mentioned, go, I think they're looking at them as right tackles, right? Because Jack Conklin sketchy is best. So I don't think they're talking about for the left tackle. I think maybe the Browns are delusional enough to think that was it Jones, right? The one offensive lineman, he always gets hurt, right? But he's a mountain of a man. I think that if they can get 4 or 5 games out of him before he gets hurt, that's something. But I hear what you're saying. The left tackle that we had from Alabama was a right tackle, but that was also protecting a left-handed quarterback. So I think those the right tackle from Miami, which we'll all be able to see again in the college football playoffs. To be honest with you, I was watching him when we played Ohio State, uh, Miami, and he does some pretty good blocking. Now, I'm not saying right tackle is as important as left tackle, of course not, but I think I hear what you're saying with that. But I think the Browns are thinking about any right tackle staying at right tackle because Conklin just can't stay healthy.
Well, that's what scares me, right? Is I would, at this point, I would want somebody for a left tackle, and it's kind of weird that at the top of the draft you could have any tackle and there's no left tackles up there. Again, like, because Jedrick, you're right, he was a right tackle in college protecting a left-handed quarterback, but when you switch the other side, it gets completely different. And this is what I've heard from just other offensive linemen. It gets completely different, and he struggled at the left tackle position for the Browns. But I know Dewan Jones for the Browns came out and said that he would rather play right tackle. He'll play wherever they have him or need him, but he would, and I do think he'd probably make a better right tackle than left. But again, like, I would love to find a left tackle. I don't think he's in the draft, but you never know. Maybe there's another guy. Maybe if we get Carnell Tate at 6, maybe there's another guy later in the draft that we can get in the 24 and then take Carnell Tate at 6. That's a possibility, but I don't know. I'm hoping that we can get somebody to fill our left tackle spot, and put Dewan at right tackle. But you never know. You never know what's going to happen there.
No, that's a good point. You're right. You're right. I just don't think that is Dewan Jones really going to be healthy enough. But then I give you on the other side of the ball, Alex Wright, right? Alex Wright, right? It seems these guys are coming out of college maybe just a little banged up, and they need a couple of years with those NFL trainers and stuff like that. And that's where I'm going with Alex Wright, and I think that's where you're going with the offensive lineman Jones, right? If he can stay healthy, yeah, please put him in the offensive line. And that's one less that we have to worry about because, Gomer, correct me if I'm wrong, buddy, but we don't have, besides Jones, who we're not certain is going to be healthy, none of the other offensive linemen are really under contract. And David Njoku, I think, is fair enough to say the amount of money that is owed to him, the Browns aren't going to pay him for that kind of money, especially where they got Fanning Jr. looking so good. So all that adds up to about five people you need blocking, right? For whoever your quarterback, whoever your running backs are. So if you get any of those positions locked up, would be a win as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I think they count on Luke Whippler to stay at center. He was the backup to Pochich
Okay.
this year.
Yep.
And he did a really good job in relief. But I think they do plan on him being the starting center next year. So there, you do have that. Yeah. So it's going to be a tough fill no matter which way you go. But I mean, obviously something that needs to be paid attention to. Lots of stuff that's going to happen up until the draft, right? I mean, lots of rumors are going to come out on who we're going to take, when we're going to take them, and we're going to have it all right here at Happy Hour in the Land. So we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're talking a little bit about college football, and you need a refill. Joe Boo. Bartender Joe Boo needs a refill. We're talking about a little college football. We have some Guardians coming up. But until then, we're going to toast you. Go get a refill. And don't forget, bottomless appetizers coming up. But we'll be right back on Happy Hour in the Land. Be right back. Hey, welcome back. This is Happy Hour in the Land. I'm Gomer. That's the Professor. And we are here with you to commiserate, to have a therapy session, to get our liquid libations and talk about Cleveland sports, and hopefully this will make things all bright and shiny. So cheers to all the Cleveland fans out there that are going through this with us this lovely afternoon.
Thank you, Gom. I couldn't agree with you more. Thank you all, the Cleveland fans. And we drink to stay strong, and we drink as a community. Remember the old saying, those who drink together stay together. Go. Right. Tell us all about college football, man. I am excited to hear this next topic about how you feel about the playoffs, right? That's what everybody else is talking about. Gomer, what do you, my man, thank you. What do you feel about the transfer portal and the money? It's new, right? Nothing's perfect, but my man, I am dying to hear your thoughts.
Well, it's just something I want to talk about. I guess it does. I include Ohio State in on our podcast because that's all of Ohio, not just Northeast Ohio, but it does affect them a little bit. And it's not, we talk about the playoffs and how we lost, and it wasn't the main overall reason, but I do think it helped. And not the transfer portal itself, but college football is broken right now. What's going on with college football? Like right now, we're living in the wild, wild west. And we need to fix it. Somebody needs to fix it. I don't know who that person is. And with college football, who is the guy, the person, the committee, whatever, leading the charge of the NCAA? It's a mystery, right? Because you have David Stern or Goodell or Bud Selig. Have all these commissioners of the pro sports that we know, and we can go to them and say, hey, maybe you need to fix this. I don't know who that person is in college football. It's been a mystery for years. I remember on my radio show, we were trying to find who to talk to about the playoffs, and we couldn't find any information on who to talk to. It was like a dead end. It's just like a bunch of Illuminati in a dark room trying to figure out what's going on. I know there's the playoff committee, but who's actually running college sports? Because this needs fixed. There needs to be some rules set ahead. I was always against paying the players. I never agreed with that, but it's here. It's happening. They have their money now, and fine. College education.
Is that because of the Illuminati?
Possibly because of Illuminati. You never know. What their shady dealings are. We are out there, but right now, again, we're paying the players, and that's cool. But right now, they also they changed the transfer portal, right? Because at one time, if you transferred, you had to sit out a year. And a lot of people didn't transfer for that. And now they got rid of that. And now people just transferring willy-nilly at will. And it needs fixed. And I'm not saying they can't transfer there, but there needs to be some rules set on it. You know, number one, maybe a limit on how many times they can transfer. You know, the first person that comes off the top of my head was Aaron Nolan, the quarterback um, for Ohio State, who transferred last year and now is transferring again. You know, I do think they should limit it, maybe possibly limit it to one transfer, you know, because if you get in, all right, this guy lied to me, or, you know, this isn't the place for me. I get it. You know, it's time to move on and find a better place. But to transfer every year, that's rough. That's rough. And
I think you make a really good point. I'm sorry to interrupt. But I think you make the strongest point of the biggest change that's got to happen, right? There's got to be limitations on it. Otherwise, it's literally going to be out of that movie the South Park creators did, was that basketball, right? Where you're
yeah,
literally just transferring from year to year to year. And this is in college. This is where they can be taken advantage of. I couldn't agree with you more. Let's find some way to eliminate the reality of these young athletes just hopping from season to season to season and calling it college football. Because Gomer, doesn't matter if they fail in the spring semester, if they've already committed to another college program in the fall, right? It's just not college football, is all I'm trying to say. There's got to be a limit on it. We're trying to do the right thing and give the college athletes some percentage of it. But I think we went a little too far, and I think you nailed it on the head. And I don't mean to interrupt you, but I think that's a key point, not to take away from what you're going to say. Some kind of limitations, and I hear you saying um, that you're in favor of that too. Maybe the number of how many times they can transfer, right? As college football, I think you have 5 years. So, maybe not unlimited transfers in 5 years. I like that idea.
yeah, and I mean, and I don't really have an idea on how to fix. The next topic is the quarterbacks, right? Like where you look in the final four of the quarterbacks, I believe all of them are transfers. They all transferred schools at one point. So
Yes,
I
sir.
think a big epidemic they have right now is quarterbacks. And I bring up Quinn Ewers from Texas because he signed with Ohio State his first year, and the rumor was that he signed with Ohio State because he could get the money, and at the time couldn't get it at Texas. So he came to Ohio State, learned, got paid, I think it was $6 million that year, and then transferred to Texas. And that's happening a lot where quarterbacks are going into programs, getting a big NIL deal because they're 5-star recruits, and then they go transfer to a different program, leaving that program high and dry with nothing to get for the money that they paid because they sat on the bench because they were freshmen. I think that needs to be fixed somehow. I don't know how to fix it yet. I'm sure I'm going to ponder it. I'm going to come up with it, but that needs to be looked at and as a problem, and it needs to be fixed.
Are we talking about paying a backup quarterback a ton of money,
Yeah.
just quote unquote, in case? Because that's what it sounds like, Gome. And is that not what the NFL does? Is that maybe a better system, if I hear you correctly? But
Well, right
backup
now,
quarterbacks, you need to have them.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And with college, you need to have that heir apparent. You need to have that next guy in line, right? Because someone's going to graduate, and you can't be left empty handed. So a lot of these college programs are going out there and saying, come to our school, learn, and be the starting quarterback in a year or two. I mean, there's some freshman quarterbacks that start, but not a lot here, and not just necessarily quarterbacks. This happens a lot around wide receivers, a lot of skill positions. Come to our campus, come to our team. We're going to pay you this much money so you can help down the line, and then they bounce because after 1 year they take the money and then they go to a program that's going to give them maybe more money. I don't
Sure.
know.
Well, no, that makes perfect sense. I totally get it, and I thank you for explaining it so well. What I'm thinking is then kind of like a step system. You gave the example of $6 million to the backup quarterback. I tell you what, you stay the next year, no matter if you're backup or not, it's 9 million. And if you stay the next year, backup or not, it's 12 or 13 million. Would you consider that option?
Yeah, I mean, I would think that there has to be some contracts involved, right? They're going to have contracts involved. Or saying that I need this much money, but you're going to stay this many years. And this is
Well,
how,
no, I
like,
just meant to say like no, there's the incentive. Like no, hey, it's America. You got a choice. But if you stay, what college is going to pay you more than the first college that already had you for a year? right? So again, your example of Ewers, right, who went to Texas and I believe now is playing for the Miami Dolphins, right? $6 million, but if he stays the next year, it's 9 million. Are you saying that they're like Texas would pay more than 9 million, or maybe give
Yeah,
first right of refusal, right? Like,
it's
in,
yeah, maybe
just
like an unrestricted free agent or something like that, or they have the right to match. Maybe that's it. They have the right
yes,
to match, and then you keep them. But it's just hard to be like, you got to pay a guy more to stay. It kind of sucked this year with Bo Jackson for the Buckeyes. You know, he did such a good job this year as
oh,
a freshman. He's going to get better, but we had to sit and wait and be like, is he going to come back? You know, is he going to want to stay with Ohio State? And I remember after Jeremiah Smith's
well
freshman
that
year, it was the same thing. Like, is he going to stay with us? And luckily he did. But man, I don't like having to like worry about that every year.
no, I agree, but I believe it's going to have to be incentive based rather than length of contract because everything is so fluid, especially in college sports. So I hear what you're saying about the commit. I think what you got to do is just incentive based. Hey, whatever college will pay you, we will pay you more. So
Yeah,
it's not about, trying to chase the money. But this is what
right.
happens when you open up the wallet for student athletes, right? For young men who maybe haven't had any money their entire lives and then are given millions just for playing college football. I think what we're looking at is we need to fine tune this so that we understand what is college football. I mean, should we call it college football or do we just understand now, Gomes, that those men on the field are not students? They're just athletes. What do you think?
We're not here for classes, whatever Cardell said that one year. But yeah, I think that something that needs to be looked at and something that needs to be fixed. And the other thing, and I'll make this quick, that needs to be fixed is the coaching situation. I don't think it's right that college coaches can leave before the season ends. It's just not right. I think that they need to have a window that doesn't open up until after the season ends before you can say I'm going to leave. Nobody can hire somebody until after the end of the season. I really do think, and I'm not saying it's the reason for the loss. I'm not trying to find
Okay.
excuses, but I do think it's for Ohio State. It really hurt us. I think we saw it in the Big Ten championship game. I think we saw it in the playoffs. Hartline was kind of checked out. I'm not blaming Hartline. I love that he got a good job, but I think it hurt him. I really do think it hurt him. I think it showed on the field too. But I think especially you've watched the college football playoffs. This Ole Miss, man, you watch that Georgia Ole Miss game. That team should have won the national championship. It should have, but it didn't have a head coach or the head coach that took them through the regular season. They didn't have that. They had a skeleton crew of coaches that might have left at any moment because all of those guys were going to LSU to be with Lane Kiffin, who, by the way, is a hoe. I know he hates that because someone called him that and he hates it, but he is because he leaves every place that he coaches for more money. And I can't stand that guy. But once he left, I was rooting for Ole Miss because that game against Georgia, man, that team was amazing. After we lost to Miami, I don't know if we'd beat Ole Miss. This Trinidad Chambliss is amazing quarterback, and he got denied his eligibility for another year in college, so he's going possibly coming to the NFL. And man, watch this guy in the Miami game, especially in the Georgia game, though, where his arm is might be better than Shador's. He has better scrambling. He has better vision. Like this guy, I have high hopes for. He did really good in those two games that I watched, and those were both really two good games. And I think though that team, if they had a coaching staff, might be in the national championship right now. You don't know, but it's hard to say to those kids, "Hey, we worked so hard for this all year, but these adult people that are working with you and trying to help you get to the next step, they're leaving. They're gone." So we need to change that. We need to put the window at the end of the season where nobody can leave, nobody can get hired. Because what's the big deal? Maybe we need to change the recruiting windows, right? Because I know they need to get to their next spot to recruit. Maybe change it, put a blackout period where they can't talk to people until the college football season's over, so we don't have these coaches that are starting in. But we need to do that to fix college football because this is atrocious. That there is a team in the college football playoffs that didn't have a head coach. That's all I'm saying.
No, I think you've got some great points. I think you articulated it greatly. Not only the challenge, but for you at home, did you notice how Gomer gave you the solution as well? And that is a sweeping declaration of how the entire system is set up, right? When you sign up to be a college football coach, you agree as part of the contract that you will not leave. I don't care if you get another job. I understand this is America. I understand this is all about capitalism and chasing that money. But when you sign up for a college coach, guess what? You don't get to pull, and I think we should call it the Lane Kiffin rule, right? You don't get to abandon Ole Miss. I couldn't agree with you more, Goldman. I'm proud to say that I've never been a stronger Ole Miss fan in my entire life than that game against Georgia. And I love Georgia. Nick Chubb from Georgia, right? Been watching them ever since. Nick Chubb was there. I think Georgia's a good team. I think they got good quarterbacks. They got good organization. But I tell you what, those were underdogs. And we are from Cleveland, Northeast Ohio, man. And that is our bread and butter is underdogs. And I was so happy to see them keep it close. I couldn't agree with you more, Gome, and I appreciate you saying that there was a skeleton crew of coaching that could have left at any time. And that brings me back to what we're talking about, Gomer. We're talking about college. And you know what? I think we all learned a lot about Lane Kiffin versus those coaches that you spoke of that could have left at any time, right? So maybe that's how we still do call it college football. Is we're learning something LSU about your brand new coach Lane Kiffin, how he will jump ship at the sign of more money. And hey, if that's
Yeah.
who you are, then that's who you are. But you know what? That's not how I was raised, and I'm certainly not going to tell anybody else how they were raised. But I'd rather win with honor than win with cheating or some kind of shortcutting or something like that. So we're learning a lot, and I applaud the college football team who will make adjustments. And I agree with you. This needs to be one of them.
Yeah, for sure. And these are kids. At the end of the day, they're kids, and we need to be there for them. So I'm hoping they can fix it, hopefully soon, because this is getting ridiculous. And I know Dan Lanning from Oregon came out and said something. I know Nick Saban has said something, and I know more and more head coaches keep coming out. So I'm hoping it gets fixed soon, but we'll see. We'll talk about it more later. But this is currently Happy Hour in the Land. I'm Gomer. That's the professor. We're gonna take a quick break, talk some Guardians baseball when we come back, and we'll be right back. Cheers. Hey, welcome back. This is Happy Hour in the Land. Welcome back. I'm glad you joined us. I missed you. I am Gomer. That's the professor. Happy Hour in the Land is a place where all Cleveland fans can come, commiserate, get their liquid libations, cheers, and just chill out. It's a therapy session for all Cleveland fans here in Happy Hour in the Land. So
Amen, Gomer.
welcome.
Amen, Gomer. Thank you for introducing us again, man. I'm so excited to be here with you again, talking Cleveland and Ohio sports, really. And we often talk a lot about the Browns, but it is the off season for one of our favorite teams, the Guardians Tribe. And I'm interested. The off season, we still got some time, right? And we are still clearly in football season, as you and I love to talk about. But Gomer, would you mind giving us your input, your 2 cents on how the Guardians are doing so far in preseason?
Man, I don't know. It's tough, man. It's tough to be a Tribe fan nowadays. So the Guardians have done exactly almost nothing. And that's really sad. I know, but they came out at the end of the season and tried to temper our expectations. But I mean, looking at the payroll, I think coming out of the season we were like 60 million. So like looking at the payroll, like, well, they got to do something, right? No, nothing. We've signed three relievers, I think, maybe more, to minor league contracts. We've signed a bunch of guys on minor league contracts. Pedro Avila's back on a minor league contract. I believe Sean Armstrong's coming in, and so that's a good pickup. Yeah, just relievers, and that's the word is that they just want to focus on the bullpen. They were good with starting pitchers, and it sounds like they're good with the offense, which is sad, really, because we won on our pitching last year, right? And we had great pitching, especially at the end of the year, and you come out and you strengthen the bullpen, cool. But we also had one of the worst offenses in the league. And I know they want to come out and they want these guys to come out, these young kids, to see what they can do. They want to give them an opportunity, which I commend. I like. But at the same time, I don't know if it's enough, man. Because I mean, we have these young kids, and hopefully they come through. We have maybe Valeris, CJ Kafis, uh, Chase DeLauder, who played his major league debut in the playoffs. He's going to hopefully come in and be in our outfield. We unfortunately got rid of Jokenzie Noel. He went to Baltimore, but I think a change of scenery will do him well. But man, we're sitting at like the $70 million range, and there's really no plans on spending any extra money. Which, if that's the case, if you really want to give these kids time, okay, okay. But you know what? You know what you got to do? You have the money. You have the money. Quan's sitting there ready to leave. Pay the guy. Pay him. I don't know what else we're waiting for. Why are we hoarding money? I mean, we have a corner outfielder that we've been cycling through left fielders for years. We found a great left fielder. Pay the guy. If we're not spending money, and I realize, I understand as a Tri fan, we're not going to go out and get Pete Alonso. I understand that. But man, we got to keep the people that we need to keep, and like we need to get the guys that can help us win. We need a first baseman. I'm sorry, Manzardo. I love Mustache, but you know what? He's not a great first baseman. Anything in the dirt, he can't handle. So you know we need maybe somebody else at first base. I do want to say this. I do appreciate we just signed a guy today to a minor league contract, former first round draft pick Carter Kaboom, which I watched him play. He came to Akron with the Harrisburg Senators. I watched him play. You can't forget a guy's name that's named Kaboom. You can't forget that guy's name. But former first round draft pick, so maybe he'll put it together with the Tribe. You never know. Hopefully he can.
It's almost straight out of Hollywood, isn't it, Gomer?
Yeah. Yeah. There's still rumors that possibly that they might go after Austin Hayes as an outfielder, but our outfield is really jam-packed. We got a lot of young kids. I know they talked about moving Travis Bazana to the outfield just to get him an opportunity to come to the majors. Again, I don't think he'll start the season with them in the Major League Club. He'll probably come shortly thereafter. I do think he'll be there sometime this year, but I don't think he's going to start the year. I can't wait to see if that's true or not. But spring training is just, man, about a month away. If it's very close to being about a month away. I can't wait. It's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. I just really hope we can bolster our offense, or maybe some of these guys can come up and do something. I don't know. We'll see. A lot to go through.
Do you think they're saving up? I'm sorry to cut you off. Do you think they're saving up, bud? Do you think they're, kind of like the slingshot, pulling it back and waiting for next year to really freaking strike?
I don't know what they'd be waiting for at this point. I mean, I think we have a good pitching staff enough. We have a good pitching staff enough to win. I think we need to get some bats. And you see Chicago White Sox. They were horrible this year, but they're loading up. Man, they got the Japanese Babe Ruth over here that they just signed. Baltimore signed Pete Alonso, and I know they're not in our division, but still, at this point, I don't expect to win our division. I mean, we had a heck of an end of the season where we came back 15 games. I don't think that's going to happen this year. I don't think we can count on a team falling apart like the Tigers.
You don't think we've got a shot at the division after the comeback? I'm not saying you're wrong, boss. I'm just talk to me more about this. Do you mind?
No.
Can you expand on that?
No, I'm saying that I don't think we're going to come back from 15 games again, because we really had to hope that the Tigers fail, and that's not going to happen 2 years in a row, especially if we get behind early.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Not only just that we won, but the Tigers failed, right? But how do we correct that? How do we make sure that we don't have to require the Tigers or whoever's leading the division to lose?
I just think we need some offense at this point. I do think our bullpen's good. I think our starting pitching staff is good enough, at least. I do think that we just need to get some extra bats in there. We need a right-handed power bat. We haven't got that guy yet. And I mean, I don't know if we get a power bat, but we need somebody to come in here and do something. And for them to sit at the payroll less than last year, man, they have the room to spend something. And you know what? I defend the Guardians every day of the week, especially when it comes to payroll. A lot of people are, we need a new owner, we need to spend. This guy needs to move on. I've never been that guy because I understand it. You know, going back, we got Edwin and Encarnacion, and then they saw the
Yes.
attendance go up that year, but then it declined the next 2 years. And they said it's not worth it. We're not getting our money's worth back because we spent all this money and then the people didn't come to the stadium. Which, okay, I get that. I get that we can't get Pete Alonso or Fernando Tatis or Bryce Harper. I understand that. But you know what? Our attendance has been at 2 million for the first time in back-to-back years in like 20 years or something like that. And so you're telling us that you're not going to reward the fans for coming to the stadium and putting up the numbers that they put up. You're not going to reward them and put them and give them someone else to look at after we had 2 million fans 2 years in a row. Man, like it's just disappointing that they're not giving the fans someone to look at, something to cheer about, something exciting. We have Jose, and man, I just don't want to let Jose down. You know, he took a pay cut to stay here, and I just don't want to let him down. You know, supposedly they promised him that he took less money so they could spend more money at other places, and they're spending less money this next year. Man, even the Pirates are trying to spend money. At least the Pirates are doing. They have made a lot of moves. They made a lot of offers. I know some people said they made offers and they expected not to sign that player, but they made offers to look good. But man, the Tigers are being aggressive. At least you hear their names in rumors. You don't hear the Guardians in anything except for Austin Hayes and
Right.
Brandon
Well,
Donovan.
right. No, great points. Great points. Great points. And everything that you said makes me think that these are people who make too much money to make such illogical decisions. And that's what makes me think of the slingshot, right? We're moving 2 steps back to try and really take a shot in a year or two. Not unlike the Browns, do they wait for Archie Manning? But anyway, the idea being that right, 70 million, that's $20 million less than it was last year. What are we waiting for? Right? What are we saving up? Is there Babe Ruth or somebody that's going to come out that would you call it Gome, the Japanese Babe Ruth or something like that?
Yeah, the
You know,
Japanese
is there
is Babe
somebody that
Ruth
we're
signed with
really
the White
saving
Sox.
up? Yeah. So what are we waiting for? I
Well,
wonder if it's just cleaning house money wise or if it's an owner that doesn't really want to win. And I hope to God it's not the latter.
I've never thought that
I am
because
disappointed.
other people have said that, and I've never thought that because I think we found an owner that found a formula that can make him money and we can be winners. And I've always been happy that since I think 2013, I think we've had two losing records. I think two or three, and like one was like one game under 500, losing seasons. So I think that they found out that they don't have to buy Pete Alonso, and like I said, 2016 they were just an inches away from the World Series, and I think they I think they know that they can win without spending all that money, and as long as it's spent correctly and wisely, which I've always appreciated for them. But you talk about maybe they're waiting on something, and the only thing maybe I can think of that after you sit here and talk is maybe that they're going to have this season where they have all these young kids, like I said, Valera, Chase DeLauder, CJ Kafis, possibly Bazana come up. Maybe they're waiting to see if one of these guys kind of stands out, and they'd be like, all right, now we're going to pay him and keep him. But they're waiting to see who it is instead of
Thank
locking
you.
all the guys up.
That's what I'm
I don't
saying.
know.
That's what I'm saying. It's you got to have money for some core players, and it's more than just one, right?
Hmm.
So maybe
Well,
they
yeah.
are reserving for some major players, and the the Guardians do so well with such a limited budget that it makes you think that if they're going to start to hold back, is it because they're greedy or is it because they got a plan? I'm sorry, maybe it's the optimist in me. I'm hoping they got a plan. And boy, wouldn't it be cool, right? Let's take 2 steps back and 3 steps all the way through the World Series.
Well, I also should say too, they lost a lot of money, I guess, with the TV deal with Bally's. They don't have a TV deal essentially right now. They're with the MLB, and then they depend on people like me who had to buy the package to watch the games this year. So I heard they lost some money there. Maybe that's the cause of not spending as much money as they lost some money in the TV deal. I don't know, possibly, but Well, we'll find
It could
out
be.
exactly.
Yes, no, I'm sorry. Please go. But yeah, we'll find out exactly how much it affects the payroll. Was that what you were going to say?
Yeah, well, I mean, we got in the upcoming weeks. We have, like I said, a month of spring training. We'll find out what moves they make. They Nolan Jones is another name because I just realized that we traded for him in spring training last year, so maybe he can come around and do something. He's a guy that has the talent. We just haven't seen it yet. He did it in Colorado, which I know they have the funny air where balls fly farther. But anyhow, we'll find out soon enough. Like I said, less about a month away from spring training. So you know what? Let's drink to that. A month away to spring training because
Yes, sir.
football's almost over.
Spring training coming soon.
But once again, my liquid libation that is today is the Field of Dreams bourbon, straight from the corn of the Field of Dreams in Iowa. It's smooth. I love it. It's great. It's a great liquid libation. So I'm glad to share this with you. And if you were here, I'd give you a sip for sure. But thanks again for joining us at Happy Hour in the Land. It's been a great time that we've had. I am the Gome. That is
Yes,
the
sir.
Professor. Again, wherever you are, come back, talk to us again. If you ever want to email us, happyhourintheland@gmail.com and reach out, follow, like, subscribe, whatever it takes to follow us a little
Don't
bit
forget
more.
hug, my man.
Hug us. And just to make sure that we stay in your lives, because you know what? You're a good cat. I appreciate you. Thanks for listening.
Amen.
Thanks for having us. And again, Happy Hour in the Land. I'm the Gome. That's the Professor. We'll see you next time. Go Cleveland. See you guys.